I'd like to call the Tuesday, June 4, 2019 City of Oldsmar City Council meeting to order. First item on the agendas is the invocation, as well as the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by our city attorney, Mr. Tom Trask.
We live in the world that you have created and are creating. In all we say and do, keep us aware of the need to ask how this affects the world around us. Keep us from forgetting that your creative energy is alive and active in the world today. In this time of discussion about the realities of today and the possibilities for tomorrow, help us all be people of hope. Open us to the promise that all will be well. May this council be blessed by your presence, and may the city of Oldsmar be blessed with your hope. This we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Citizens Open Forum. Before I do that, I would like to take a moment to recognize, but he just got dragged out of the room, so I'm not going to recognize him right now. He's going to be speaking to us a little bit later, our state representative who is here tonight. Tonight, on the Open Citizens Forum, we have a few items under public hearings, which is items on the agenda number 7, 8, 9, and 10. What we would ask is if you'd like to comment on that you hold it till we get to that point in the meeting. Otherwise, if there's anyone who'd like to address the council, you have 5 minutes to do so. We ask that you give your complete name and address, including the city and state. And we will start on this side of the room. Is there anybody who'd like to speak? Seeing none, right ahead.
Cambanis, 524 Cypress Bend. I just wanted to say that I was excited to see some new events at the flea market. We took the family to go to the circus, and was excited to see that there's an effort to bring some new things in. I did talk to the people at the circus about the odor, so hopefully they'll take that to heart and do something about that next time. So, but it's nice to see some new events come. So thanks for supporting that.
You're welcome. Thanks for speaking up about it. I know a lot of people were really excited about the circus in many ways. So, and anybody on this side of the room? Becky, oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Kim Petey, 207 Fairfield Street, Oldsmar, Florida. Good evening, Mayor Seidel, City Council members, as well as the staff for the City of Oldsmar. I received a memo from the clerk notifying me that I would be forfeiting the seat that I hold on the Leisure Services Board. At the meeting tonight, you'll be discussing it on the consent docket. If this is the appropriate time, I'm going to address the board. Is this the correct time?
Sure, I think it'd be fine.
I missed the November 12th meeting due to my father being hospitalized in Fort Myers, and by the sheer nature of where I live compared to my sister in Ohio.
Kim, you know what? I'm going to do this because of the time restraint.
I'm going to be under 5 minutes.
Okay. Otherwise, I'd move it so you could do it.
Nope, I'm good. Okay. Due to my father being hospitalized in Fort Myers, I made that my priority as opposed to attending the meeting. That meeting was an excused absence. On May 13th, I missed due to a work commitment. As some of you may know, I work at the VA hospital in Tampa, Florida, and I'm a recreation therapist, and we were on a community outing, and we had a patient who had a code issue, and we actually had to call in an ambulance. As a result of that, I was not able to attend the meeting because I was back at the hospital taking care of that situation. As a result of that, I understand that my attendance requirements provide for no differentiation whether it's for excused absences or not, according to the referendum. But after nearly 15 years on the board, it's very disheartening to go from having 7 meetings a year to 4, And that was a decision that the city council approved at the board's recommendation, but we really felt, as a board member, I felt especially, that we didn't really have a choice in the matter, that was the direction that we were going, that we were going to go to having 4 meetings. And when you have 4 meetings, it's really hard to act as a citizen, to be the voice, and one of the few voices to be able to provide feedback on what's going on in the city, because we're one of the few boards that have that ability to give you more information than just the leisure services and what's going on in leisure services. I would hope that in the future that you would consider extending the length of the board meetings to having it going back to more often than what it's currently meeting. I don't know if that's a decision that you would make tonight. I certainly don't think that would be on the docket, and you'd have to add that. But I think that that is a valuable piece to having citizens being able to represent their peers in the community for an important piece. I understand that I will not be able to apply for my position again because of the way the referendum is written and the bylaws are written, but I want to encourage you to consider keeping this board either in this format or in a different format and extending it to more than just 4 times a year. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And let me make a point of saying this to you and everyone else, and that is to say thank you for your service. I know that is kind of bittersweet, but there's an automatic scenario that takes place, and that's, unfortunately, I think that was probably put in place when we envisioned there being more meetings, but in any event, I want to make a point of saying that. Is there anyone else on this side of the room?
Virginia Castro Bureau, 403 Arlington Avenue East. Good evening, Council. As some of our council members well know, sitting on Leisure Service Advisory Board isn't a walk in the park. But it's neither here nor there. December 4th council meeting, I was approved to be reappointed to Leisure Services Advisory Board without my presence, stated by the mayor with his mayor minutes being my health was at issue and I was unable to attend. So the next meeting I miss because of my health issues. The next meeting I'm unable to attend because of my health issues. It seems a little off here. One minute I've got council approving me for a position where my presence isn't required, and now, because I have health issues, my presence isn't required again. You've created a draconian rule. You've taken a community advisory board and you've given it standards as if we are employees. We receive no compensation for our volunteer position. You missed more meetings sitting on council over the years than most people on boards have missed. But I am being removed from a board. I have not missed a meeting in 11 years. 11 years. I bring quite a bit to this city from this board. Where's my recognition? Where's my 10-year award? The letter you send to me is my reward. Thank you so much for allowing me to serve my city, but no thank you. I decline, and I will not grovel for a position that I'm not appreciated for. Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to continue to repeat myself. I mean, everybody on that board knows the rules. You have 4 meetings, you miss 3. I'm sorry. I understand that it's unique. You're out of order right now, okay?
You're absolutely right.
But, I will say this about the council members up on this team. They have a lot of meetings. And so if they miss more, then so be it. But they have a heck of a lot more meetings. Becky.
Rebecca Jo Afonso, 174B State Street East, Oldsmar, Florida, 34677. I'm here as the president of the Friends of the Library with some events coming up. The Oldsmar Public Library Summer Reading Program Kickoff Party is this Thursday, June 6th at Tico Hall, starting at 11 a.m. The party features a mini book sale and the Bucky and Gigi Show, former Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey circus clowns who promise to boldly go where no clown has gone before. So this family fun party is free and open to the public. This year, participation in the Oldsmar Public Library Summer Reading Program and other summer events will earn raffle entries for a grand prize of 3 Disney World passes. All 3 passes will be awarded to the one winning entry, so the more you participate in the programs, the more chances you have to win. The Friends of the Oldsmar Public Library are holding a 100th anniversary of the Oldsmar Public Library Bookmark Design Contest for children's ages 4 to 12. The deadline for entries is Wednesday, July 31st. All entries will be displayed in the library during August, and the 2 winning designs from age group 4 to 6 and age group 7 to 12 will be printed and distributed at the library. Contest rules and submission forms are available at the library. The address for the library is 400 St. Petersburg Drive East. And if anybody has a problem finding that, you can contact me or look it up on the web. So thank you very much. And I do recall that the contest for the bookmark is going to be judged by the Friends of the Library Board. And I believe we've invited City Council to be part of the judging
I
system.
hear that you have.
So
I
we'll
was
look forward
almost
to
glad
it.
that you invited us to come and be judges instead of invited us to participate, because that would be embarrassing.
Well, if you want to be 4 to 12. No.
Well, then, there you go.
It would look like that, my stick figures.
I'd try to qualify, but I'm told I can't because I'm board president. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
This is related to
Yeah,
I figured since everyone else spoke about their appointment,
ahead.
I would too. But before I do that, I just wanted to congratulate you on your appointment as mayor, because I haven't been here since the appointment, and of course to Katie and Linda too. So congratulations to both of you. I got involved on the Leisure Services Committee 2 years ago. It was after being in the Citizens Academy. And so I was moved to serve, and coincidentally, last year on the 14th of May, I missed a meeting, and this year on the 13th of May, I missed a meeting. So I understand per the current resolution, if you miss in a year, I happen to be 1 day short of a year. I fell on the wrong side of the count, but if the purpose of it is for attendance, I understand, but I would ask that the council revisit the rule and think about whether or not it should be 1 out of 4 meetings. If there's 4 meetings a year and you miss 1 a year, is that okay? Or is it literally to the day, which is what happened in my situation? A couple other things that I just wanted to comment on. I know some of the members have been on the board for a very, very long time. Me being one of the newer members at 2 years, I felt like there was maybe a little less. I think a lot of people felt entitled to their role, and I think they maybe earned that the way the rules are. But if the true purpose is not to serve our own interests, but to serve the interests of the community, it would be good if other people can get on. And it's not easy to get on these committees. Another thing is I'm also on the planning committee, and we don't meet unless we have something to meet about. And it started to feel like we were meeting just to give Chip another assignment. And so I don't want Chip to feel like he has to present to us just because we have a meeting. If there's something that we're actively voting on, I think it's worth having a meeting. But we're all donating our time, whether it's sick or in my case it was because of work. what I think was really nice about the way it was before is we had alternates. So if someone's missing, you have an alternate that fills in, and I think that there's value to that. And there's a reason why there's no alternates. We had grown to be such a large board, so there was reasons for that. But what I'm hoping is that this situation offers an opportunity to revisit exactly what the board's intended purpose is and try to maximize the value. I know that I joined because as an athlete and two-time Olympian, I wanted to give back. And leisure services is all about the parks and the public spaces. And I didn't think there was much opportunity to give back or to share, encourage, creative opportunities to enhance the parks as much as I had hoped. I certainly shared ideas with some of the team, and I hope to still have opportunities to do that. So regardless of what the decision is, I realize that my term is completed as the resolution current reads, but I came here because I want it to be an opportunity for others and to make sure that it serves the city in the best possible way. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. John Andrew, I'll tell you, we appreciate your service, and I hope that you all kind of appreciate, hey, we're not going to deviate from what the resolution says. I mean, that's the way we follow the rule book, right? I do think that it makes sense for this council to take the issue up, the whole issue though, right? As to, are the meetings enough? Is the board too big? There's recommendations that's been in place to make that board smaller. I will tell you, this is how long I've been around on council. I remember when we were in the old building across the street, and we had the debate about term limits for serving on those boards. And the goal was not to punish anyone, but quite frankly, so that, just like with our council, so that it can rotate.
Sure.
And so I think because of the unique set of circumstances, that it opens the discussion for us to visit that more. And so I expect that this mayor will probably bring it back for discussion. So anyhow, thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, I'm going to close the citizens' open forum. The next item on the agenda is the community minute. I call on the city clerk to announce the community minute.
Community minute. Well, the storm season's upon us. Hurricane season has started up June 1st. Make sure you visit pinellescounty.org emergency. And Bob Seymour Jr. Memorial Adult Fishing Derby is Saturday, June 8th from 7 to noon. This is free, open it to adults 17 and older. Bring a pole, and there's raffles, prizes, boat and land fishing is allowed. It's at the Mobley Bayou Wilderness Preserve, right behind Bicentennial Park on 423 Lafayette. Registration is not required, so grab a pole and go on out there.
There you go. Little fishing action, huh? The next item on the agenda is the approval of the addition of new items. Items 4 and 15 are new. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Was I moving too fast for you?
Maybe a little bit. Yeah. I was gonna add agenda items. Where should I do that, at the end or
You were going to add an agenda item
next?
when we get to
Do
the tentative
At
agenda.
the end, okay.
Yep,
16.
I have a question.
sure.
First time in my life I ever wrote a poem. Weren't we supposed to have the poem? The
Oh, she's
poet
calling us
laureate
out.
today?
Amanda's not here. Shush.
First time in my life.
Save it.
Oh,
Save
save
it.
it.
Save it.
You should sandbag that. You'll sandbag that, but I'll make sure that Amanda knows that you were prepared. And so is the rest of us.
Well, usually she comes tonight and gives us homework.
That's it. She's a slave driver.
Homework, it's on superheroes.
All
Remember?
right, the next item on the agenda is awards and recognition. Presentation of Business of the Quarter Award, which will be presented by Councilmember Saraki.
Thank you, Mayor. I love doing this. Test, test, test. Hello? Hello? Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Our business of the quarter for the second quarter of April through June 2019 is PDR, CPA, and advisors. I'm going to read this and then I'll call you up, Javier. PDR is a full-service CPA firm providing comprehensive business services and industry expertise to their clients for over 45 years. They are located in they relocated to Oldsmar for 3 years ago with a roster of 40 employees. PDR provides audit, tax, accounting, and consulting services to businesses and individuals, including strategic tax planning, research and development, tax credits, cost segregation, studies, opportunity zones, and tax-free exchanges, business evaluations, mergers, and acquisitions. That's a long one. This expertise range of professional services is good for Oldsmar businesses and helps make Oldsmar a regional resource for business planning. They are very active in the community as a trustee level member of the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce and serves on the Chamber Board of Directors. Internally, they have groups specializing in nonprofits, and many of their CPAs are on other local boards. PDR takes pride in assisting the Oldsmar community and surrounding municipalities. Their goal is to help these organizations strengthen their financial position so that they can help our community thrive. In short, they located their headquarters in Oldsmar because it is central to their business base, and they have quickly become involved in our community as a great place to live, work, and play. I am proud to present the Business of the Quarter Award to Javier I'm going to say this wrong. Zignuga, partner of PDR, CPA, and Advisories. Come on up, Javier. Pronounce your name for me. I apologize on that.
Javier Zuniga.
Very good.
What's funny is earlier you had it right on.
I know.
It's the spotlights.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I appreciate you being in Oldsmar. It's very important that you've moved your company to Oldsmar. You have 40 employees here. That means a lot to all of us here on the council. We are very excited to have you in Oldsmar, and we appreciate especially helping out the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce. That means a lot to us. Would you like to say something?
Sure, thank you. I, along with my partners, Paul Costantino and Mary Brown, thank you for the recognition. I'm especially encouraged by the fact that it's April through this joint period since we got the busy season. One of the great things I want to mention with the city of Oldsmar was their support as we moved here in December of 2016. Our lease was up, we found this location, and we found this location because 2.5 years prior, there was a magazine in the Florida Trend, there was an article in the Florida Trend magazine which pointed to Oldsmar as that up and coming location. Once we figured out what that location was, we were fortunate to find 4023 Tampa Road, which is 11,000 square feet, where we accommodate the office, the main headquarters, and it's been a great location for us. In addition to that, one of the concerns that you have when you make a transition of business is, what about the attrition of clients? Well, you move, you're doing this and that. One of the great things about the Oldsmar corridor is the fact that the compliments we got were, well, I love your new location because you're on the way to something or on the way back from something. So our attrition was not noticeable. In fact, with clients, now we're having a lot more success pulling in clients from the West Chase area and points there. So I appreciate that, along with appreciating the assistance that Jerry Custon and Jerry Peruzzi had with us while we're trying to get one last permit, and the city of Baltimore cooperated with us getting that last permit so we can move in there on December 28, 2016. So thank you and great job. Additionally, I really like the way you guys deal with the signage. There is no visual pollution. I really enjoy that. Once you cross the line to get into the other side, it's like signs all over.
I want to break out in applause right now. I'm just doing that.
Best news of the day right there.
Well deserved. Thank you.
That makes
To the
it
left, to
up
the
on
left,
us.
to the left. Shift, shift, shift. There you go. Right in front of the seal.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we don't get many who come up and thank the sign ordinances. I don't,
That's a first.
And I like
sign
Been a minute.
pollution. Well, congratulations. Well deserved. Thank you all. Yeah. All right. The next item on the agenda is the Community Redevelopment Agency. We have no items under that heading. The next would be our consent docket. The chair will entertain a motion to accept. Does anybody wish to pull anything from the consent
Yes,
docket?
I would.
What would you like to pull?
Item 3.
Item 3. Anybody else? Chair will entertain a motion to approve item 2.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're now on item 3.
I requested to pull item 3 because I was hoping that the city attorney could provide some guidance, because I've received some questions about how the Leisure Services Board will operate following this forfeiture. Specifically, the board is at 11, this forfeiture brings them down to 7. By the resolution, they're supposed to be at 9. So conceivably, could the members who forfeited this evening reapply for those positions and be reappointed by the council, or do I have that wrong, Tom?
So the resolution requires the forfeiture. There's no question about
Right.
that. You need to follow your resolution. So when you accept their forfeiture, they're no longer on the board. And then as, you know, your resolution provides if they were to resign or if they were to die, then obviously you could not reappoint them. Your resolution does not prohibit you, though, from reappointing someone if they forfeited their office. So to answer your question is you would accept the forfeitures of their office of these 3 individuals, and then you would decide of the list of people that are interested in those positions, who would be the one that you would want to appoint, whether it's one of those 3 or all 3 that have just been removed from the board or someone else, you have the right to do that. As for how it affects the board, there would still need to be a quorum of that board for any meeting to take place, and if there's no quorum, there would be no meeting until such time as you've appointed a replacement or all 3 replacements.
My understanding from that board, because I was on it, is that for the appointment process, potential applicants are interviewed by the board, and then those applicants are voted on by the board and recommended to the council for appointment. Is that the proper way for it to operate, or is that just the way we've always done it?
I think that's just the way that you've always done it.
Okay,
I don't believe that there is any requirement of that in your resolution.
okay.
I think what happened at some point, there was some sort of, I don't know, bylaws or policies internally that was adopted.
Oh, I was there, I wrote the bylaws.
And then I guess I have that right. So
Well-
my bet is that's the way that transpired. The question that I would have, quite candidly, was it ever approved by the council afterward? Because if it wasn't,
The bylaws?
yeah. So if it wasn't, I'm not so sure whether or not that becomes a guiding light, because I think that we are probably more driven by what the council has actually voted on and approved.
Right. The final version of the bylaws came before the board after I had to resign due to election to council, so I'm not sure.
All right, the Leisure Services Advisory Board adopted the bylaws at their February meeting, February 11th.
But it's never been approved by this council.
The bylaws part, correct?
Right, I was not aware it needed to be presented to council, so it has not been.
Okay. We don't typically let most of our standing citizens committees establish their own rules. That's not the norm, you know, and for good reason, quite honestly. So what I would say is I have a feeling someone's going to add it to it as a future agenda item. And so maybe at that time we dig into it. As it relates to this item on the agenda, candidly, I questioned a little bit, other than not wanting to appear that we were just not even going to mention it, right?
Yeah.
Transparency. I don't believe this even requires a vote. because I believe that there is no acceptance required because the resolution does not call
Operates
for
on
one.
its own, sure. I just wanted to clarify the operation of potentially getting back on the board for those particular
Right.
individuals. Thank
Yeah.
you, appreciate it. I have no other questions.
Okay, but we'll go ahead and accept the forfeiture anyhow, since we did put it on the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Regrettably? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. City of Oldsmar. Now, what's this item number 4? Legislative update by our State of Representatives, Mr. Jamie Grant. If you please come up, sir. I have to tell you, this guy has been working very hard for us, the city, our region, and we're grateful that he's our representative. He got here early to do kind of a roundtable for those that was open to the public who could make it, and gave us some updates, but he's going to give us some insights and all the exciting things that are going on in Tallahassee, that just happened in Tallahassee.
Appreciate it, Mr. Mayor. Council, it's good to be with you. For the folks that were able to join us earlier, obviously that's always an important thing for me. I like to remind people that, including myself sometimes, that the job of representative starts with listening. If I'm going to be somebody's voice in the state capitol, it's probably pretty important that I'm listening to them first. And so I appreciate the opportunity. Certainly like to get back on a regular cadence of doing more of those. So it's good to be home. As I like to also remind people, life and liberty are not safe when the legislature is in session. Everybody can rest easy. We are home. We can do no harm at this point. For those who may not know me that are watching or that I have not had a chance to tune in, I'm Jamie Grant. I represent all of Northwest Hillsborough County, Northeast Pinellas County in the Florida House of Representatives. It is truly an honor to represent Oldsmar, and I don't say that because I'm standing here. I say that because when we oftentimes deal with regulations of cities and terms like home rule and preemption and policies that sometimes get a little spicy, I like to remind people that there's a couple of cities, I'm fortunate to represent 2 of them, but no city like Oldsmar that continually shows what a city should be doing and how a city should be led, to the point that at no point have I ever had a home rule or preemption conversation when I pose the question to some of my colleagues or staff in Tallahassee to say, what are we trying to solve? Who are the bad actors? Has Oldsmar ever been in that bucket? And so it truly is an honor to be with you. I thought just a couple things to kind of touch on, and being brief, understanding that people have much better things to do with their night than listen to me. The one thing I would say is a takeaway from this session, opposed to any other session I've ever been a part of, is the teamwork. In most years, it's kind of House versus the Senate, and then the governor versus the House and the Senate, and everybody's kind of positioning and posturing. Quite frankly, at times it felt like people were just trying to win, rather than just saying what's the best policy and how do we implement the best policy. This year, Governor DeSantis, truly, I don't know how many of you have heard him say it, but a big believer in energy in the executive. He has exhibited it every single day. He is a leader who truly values the legislature, wants to see the work product that comes out of the legislature and diverse backgrounds and perspectives that 160 legislators bring. And so it truly was a year that was a one of a kind. I look forward to continuing it, where the governor, the House, and the Senate were kind of truly on one page together. A couple of large ticket issues that I'd say that are kind of, I think, the major reforms affecting the state of Florida. A lot of focus put on healthcare and education. I'll start with healthcare as something that represents 20% of our nation's GDP. $1 in $5 in America is spent on healthcare. Premiums continue to go up. Deductibles continue to go up. Access to care continues to go down. We have a major and systemic problem, to the point that in an environment where we can't agree on much politically, both parties agree that we're trending towards 34% of GDP in the very near future. The 2 most significant cost drivers of healthcare are your acute costs, your hospital costs, and your drug costs. We'll see. In anything innovative, you have to have the courage to say, we think that this will take us down the right path. What I would tell you from a healthcare agenda this year, there was no lack of courage, but I think it's important for us to subsequently follow on and measure and ask ourselves, did we get it right? The 2 things that we did that were significant to address those 2 major cost drivers. One is, and much was made, and as you can imagine, when you disrupt the status quo, lots of dollars are spent trying to vilify your efforts. But the Canadian import program. So working through the FDA, I'll put kind of concerns to bed. It doesn't mean any drug in the world is coming to America, but it is a direct effort to go to war on the cost of prescription drugs in an era where we have too many of our constituents that are trying to figure out how to pay their mortgage or get their medications. The second was the Certificate of Need repeal. Most of you may not be familiar with Certificate of Need laws. We are one of a handful of states that still have them. What it effectively says is that you cannot open up a healthcare facility unless the regulator authorizes, based on population only, that you can come into the market. And so effectively a board that sits with bureaucrats and lobbyists and members representing the entrenched industries sit there and say, no, we don't need another hospital. The reality is market forces always work. The reality is when we give consumers choice, competition continues to deliver better, faster, and cheaper. And so we looked at those two major cost drivers and said, if we can make drugs more affordable and if we can bring down the price of a hospital procedure or stay, then we're doing something significant. I do, like I mentioned, suggest that we not fall into the trap of thinking, okay, we've fixed it and we're done. It will be an ongoing effort because until we get healthcare back to a place where it is affordable, until we get to a place where health insurance and health care no longer mean the same thing, but instead that people just have access to world-class care here in the Tampa Bay area and around the state, we have not finished our job. Education, I'd sum it up by saying we have continually said that no child, regardless of their color, their zip code, the size of mama's purse or daddy's wallet, should be stuck in a failing school with the only determining factor of can they get to a different school be the amount of money they have. And so the work we did this year continues to expand unapologetically on school choice. It suggests that the two most important parties in the education world are the family, the parents and the student, and the teachers. And how do we empower students and families, and how do we empower teachers? And so you saw some significant reforms there. Touching on a couple of local issues. Number one, the Douglas Road project, and we're not quite there, but we expect to have that cross the finish line. For those who don't know, we were able, really a testament to the teamwork. I talked about the teamwork in Tallahassee, but this council, the team collectively doing the work that each of you do to put us in the position where we can advocate for projects that make a direct and significant impact on our community is the only reason that the Douglas Road project is sitting in the budget, and we expect to have funded. I will tell you that at the governor's office and the governor know that that's an important project to our region. And so I certainly expect to see that thing funded and look forward to continuing our infrastructure work to make sure that this region that, as Javier just talked about, it is a central artery in our region. And so I think the ability to move people, the ability to maintain what Oldsmar is critical. And so, Lord willing, the next time I'm standing here, we can talk about the fact that it was funded. It is sitting in the budget. Two policy areas, one of which I totally failed to mention earlier in our little kind of baby town hall, let's call it, was one's the tree bill. As it's being called. I put it in the Oldsmar bucket, as I mentioned earlier. Effectively what we had is some cities around the state that were telling private property owners they could not remove or trim a tree even where a certified arborist had said that's a danger. And so you could find a scenario where a tree is sitting next to a power pole over a pool and local government was saying, I'm sorry, I understand that could go really, really bad while your kids are playing in a pool, but you can't cut the tree down. And so what the tree bill effectively does is say that if you have a certified arborist that has said that is a danger, that you can remove it. There's a couple of other provisions in there, but by and large fits kind of in the Oldsmar bucket, where it's an Oldsmar bucket, just to make sure everybody understands, is the fact that there are local governments that do really, really bad things to deny or to inhibit the rights of their constituents.
And that's the non-bucket, just in case anybody was...
That's the non-bucket. Oldsmar continually finds itself in the bucket that says, yeah, that's fine. We think those people are doing bad things too, and we just want to be left alone to keep being Oldsmar, and so you make my job really, really easy. The last to touch on, and this is the one that I forgot to mention earlier, and it's an issue that I'm quite frankly proud of the fact we took action on, but I'm a little bit concerned that we look forward. Our first responders, and namely in this case our firefighters, put their lives on the line for us every single day. We know that there is significant causation to cancer incidents from the service that these men and women give us. It has been a frustrating issue to wrestle with legislatively because you have the economic uncertainty and where that gets pushed and how that gets pushed. My charge to the council, and I will certainly serve as a partner and resource, is that coming out of the legislation this year that does in fact provide a presumption, but basically coverage for our firefighters for about 21 different cancers, is that the council, and working with me, because I think that it's probably a joint state and local effort, but to look at some sort of risk-based policy coverage. I think there are some cities who will be, quite frankly, negligent in preparing for the fact that where a firefighter has an incident of cancer, it is one of those 21 cancers, and we should be providing that disability coverage. As written, it's a $25,000 check, and it's all co-pays, deductibles, and everything through that treatment. I think there are some cities who will go bare, who will not go out and provide some sort of coverage. I think we need to continue looking at this because I think it's indisputable that we take care of those who take care of us, but also how can we do it in the most efficient way to deliver that benefit, but in a way that doesn't hammer the local budget. Should there be kind of a significant uptick in year one versus year two. And so with that, again, just thank you for the opportunity to work with you and to go deal with that crazy place up there in the Panhandle. If there's any questions, I'm certainly happy to take them.
Anyone have any questions?
I know you do.
You do?
No, I said I know you do.
I don't. Thank you, Jamie.
Jamie, great job.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you did for us.
Hey, let me add, because he was being pretty modest, okay? The Douglas Road project, if you live here and you drive over in the industrial area, you know what we mean by the Douglas Road project. The street is a project, okay? It's a mess. We've budgeted to do some work on it. We've got some grant money to help from DOT. And of course, we're budgeting money as well. And so I don't know how many of you saw the appropriation bills and budget items that came out for our region. There weren't really a whole lot of them. And it wasn't lost on me. And Jamie filed the appropriations bill where we're ending up with $1 million to help us on that project. Senator Hooper, he too did the requirements that he needed from the Senate. They don't actually file appropriation bills, but and so when they go through this process in Tallahassee, whether you want this shared or not, but this is just, I always find it interesting. Think about it this way. The governor gets the bill, the governor's office is looking at the budget, and they're going through it, which they haven't quite got the budget yet, so it could still be vetoed out. But one of the questions that the representatives and the senators get asked is, what are your priorities in this funding? And we feel pretty confident because both of them made their top priorities us. And we were the only ones that are getting assistance, right? And we send a lot of money up there. We don't ask for a whole lot back, but when we ask on something that's important to our commerce and the industrial section back there, it's nice to know that we have someone who really goes to bat for us. I cannot tell you how much we appreciate that, and keep up the good work, sir.
I'll return, sir, because that project would have never happened without the entirety of the team. From the internal staff to each of you on the board to every one of you who worked on it. I think if we want to appropriately pat our collective backs from each of you up there and your teams and Senator Hooper, who was instrumental, I think we ought to remember there's a hurricane this year. There aren't a lot of roads being built that aren't in the Panhandle. And the only way that something like that happens is when a group of people are willing to do the preparation and the anticipation and then the hard work to get there. So it is truly, quite frankly, easy for me to close sometimes when the table's set to close. That doesn't happen without each of y'all. And so I appreciate it.
Well, the only other comment that I would have is, so do you think there's an opportunity for us to get some additional funding for it next year?
We're just getting started, brother.
Okay. Because the way this works is we're going to do what we can do, we're going to do what we can afford, and we're going to keep improving on it, do it incremental, do it over time, and that's important that we
look. I'll come back to what I said earlier about the policy side on the preemption. There are certain cities and there are certain regions of this state that find it very difficult to have projects funded. They're constantly problem children. And I give this analogy, and I know there will be some people who will cringe, but one of the fascinating things about state government, it's the only layer of government that created the federal government and local government. And what we have in some scenarios, if we're going to go with this analogy, and please read no further than the analogy, is that if the state is the parent and the local is the child, You have some cities in this state who say, I don't care what curfew is. I don't care what my allowance is. I don't care what you said I was supposed to have as a GPA. I'm not doing any of it, Mom and Dad. And by the way, triple my allowance. And then you have cities like Oldsmar who just serve as a model that I never have to do. I can't stress enough how many of my colleagues have a city, and I do have a county that's trying pretty aggressively to raise some taxes. They're not over here. I never have a city that is causing me or my office work to go make apologies for or to explain why something looks like it might be amiss. I truly get to just work with you to go on offense because y'all just do a great job. So it might sound token, but I promise you I could bring some colleagues here that all have horror stories from the cities they represent, or MDX in Miami is a fantastic example. You talk about a large organization that has had some really rampant problems. It eventually bubbles up to our level, and guys like Brian Avila and Manny Diaz and our lieutenant governor who have worked on it have to, from a state level, come in and reform something that's institutionally broken. I can't thank you all enough for the fact that like we don't even have a curfew warning when it comes to Oldsmar. So thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate you being here. Item on the agenda, approve the reappointment of Mark Braille as board member of the Board of Adjustments. Mark, would you please come up, sir? Because none of us know who you are. Your years and years of service.
What a fabulous Memorial Day ceremony.
I know it.
Absolutely fabulous.
Great.
The Veterans Advisory Board should be commended along with all the staff that participated.
But the Board of Adjustments, however, nobody likes them.
Oh, this is adjustment, okay.
I was going to let you go for a while, and then I thought, let me redirect.
Mayor. Thank you.
Redirect. Well, sir, how long have you been on the Board of Adjustments?
23.
Wow.
They don't
His wife says.
It's my wife.
Well, we actually did not need you to come in because everybody knows who you are, and you do so much for the city. I can't thank you enough. I served with you on the Board of Adjustments at one time some years back, and it was nice to have somebody on there who was experienced. I can tell you that, especially when you're new to it. But does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. Just thank you for your.
Many thanks.
Have you practiced the dance now? No?
Not quite yet. No.
Yeah, in other words, forget it, I'm not serving, I got you.
I haven't perfected
been here
yet.
too
All
many
right, sir.
times. He knows
Well,
the
thank
joke.
you. Thank you so much for your service. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Sir, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Now,
Presentation by Ford Pinellas of the 2045 Advantage Pinellas Plan. An old friend of the city's, I don't mean that in terms of his age, I mean how long he's been a friend, Whit Glenn.
Good
Nice
evening,
to have you
Mayor
here,
and
sir.
council member. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I'm not sure we ever violate curfew, maybe once in a while, but we call first. We at least call first, right? Well, thanks for the opportunity to have a little bit of your time. Normally, I make these pretty informal. I like to get around to all the cities in Pinellas County just to give them an update of what your countywide planning agency is up to in terms of transportation and land use. I do have a short presentation. I'm not sure if it's coming up here and what I need to do.
So it's
Okay, I see it. Great. So what I want to do is just give you an update on our Advantage Pinellas Long-Range Transportation Plan, and it's a strategy as well as a branding identity that we've given it because we're working in partnership with Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority, PSTA, to develop a unified transportation plan for the county. And this is significant because state statutes have created little silos of how PSTA does a plan over here and the MPO does a plan over here, and statewide that commingling and integration has been a challenge in a lot of places. So we're trying to break down that silos and have one plan for the county rather than multiple plans for different operating agencies. And this is also a strategy to really work with the county to look at our funding needs because as you all know here in local government, and it's true in state and federal level, the revenues that we get for transportation aren't going nearly far enough to deal with the costs, whether it's maintenance and operations or capital. And we don't index our gas taxes. There's a whole lot of reasons for that to inflation, but we are trying to figure out a funding strategy for transportation in Pinellas County, and we're having really good conversations. at the county level with the administrator, Barry Burton, who's relatively new to Pinellas County, and the Board of County Commissioners. And the reason for that is I've heard from every municipality, and I think you may have gotten a letter recently from Commissioner Seal, that the funding share of the gas tax is not enough to cover local government needs, the amount that's shared with all the local governments. PSTA is at their millage cap. The county does have the Penny for Pinellas, which is a capital improvement program, but their operating fund is going to be running into a deficit by 2023. So it's just a situation that's not unique to Pinellas County. It's endemic, and we're trying to figure out how to solve it while also improving transportation. And we do have a long-range focus out to 2045, and that scares a lot of people because we're not going to be around in 2045. But that is the horizon year. We actually are planning for every 5 years of growth and development and programming transportation projects for every 5 years leading to 2045. And it takes a long time to get capital projects funded, so that's why we have to think that way. We do have a strong framework for how we plan for growth and development. You all have a comprehensive plan here in Oldsmar. We have a countywide land use plan, and the principles of that were developed about 10 or 15 years ago called Pinellas by Design, where we focused on growth happening in corridors, centers, and districts. And a lot of that growth is happening here in the city of Oldsmar. You are leading our employment growth projections, and you're way up there on the population growth projections in the county. And I think that's going to continue. I really do. And I think we need to pay more attention to Oldsmar as a hub for the region. I've listened to Jerry Custian enough about that. And, you know, you are the center of the region. And I think that's going to be increasingly important for transportation. So I like to talk about this Advantage Pinellas plan in terms of our advantages and what are those. And I started thinking, well, about 2 years ago, that we need to plan differently in Pinellas County than they plan in Manatee, in Polk, or in Pasco, or Hillsborough, because they have a lot of land to develop, and we don't. We are in a redevelopment mode for the most part. There are a few exceptions, and we need to think of what really sets us apart, and it really is our communities. We have 24 cities, but we have a lot more than that when you think of focal points for development. And we need to strengthen those from a walkability standpoint, from an accessibility standpoint. And that's not building four-lane roads out to the hinterland. That's really beefing up our infrastructure. We are a resilient community, but we have some real challenges because of sea level rise. The coastal high hazard zone encroaches well into Oldsmar, and we need to look at being more resilient. So some of these advantages are things that we think can be stronger advantages if we pay attention to them in the next 20 years. Safe and healthy communities, more walkable, accessible places, a strong economic opportunity throughout the county. You all may know that here in Oldsmar, but we hover between number 2 and number 3 in the state in manufacturing jobs. Most people don't think of Pinellas County that way, but that's a real strength and a reflection of our diversified economy. So we need to continue to work on accessibility improvements that bring talented workers to jobs in Pinellas County and retain those workers here. And that's increasingly more difficult when we have bridges that are unreliable, and we have a housing affordability problem where people can't find an affordable house in a large part of Pinellas County, and so they're moving to Pasco, they're moving to Hillsborough, and then they're having that god-awful hour or 45-minute long commute, and that's not sustainable, it's not healthy. We also feel like we are more, and to Representative Grant's point, a very collaborative county. We work well together, and so it does take partnerships to get transportation projects advanced, as you well know. So I mentioned our housing and transportation cost. I may have shown this slide to you last year, but it's my go-to. We spend upwards of 60% of our income on average in Pinellas County on housing and transportation, and 45% is really considered affordable. Our average commute in Pinellas is actually a lot less than our other counties, and that's a testimony to that compact nature of our county with all our cities. And you can see an example here of that density. So we're a little bit different. We need to think differently. Over the last 20 to 25 years, we have invested very well in a strong road network. We've spent almost $1 billion in penny for Pinellas dollars building the Bayside Bridge, Mcmullen Booth Road, US 19, and the Gateway Expressway, which is under construction. Some of that's commingled with state money, but a lot of that is local penny for Pinellas dollars. We've also committed funding over the last more than decade to our intelligent transportation system with our traffic lights and our traffic management system. And we are nearing completion on the 75-mile Pinellas Trail Loop. You know, the Chestnut to Enterprise section is being worked on. I know they've taken a little bit of a pause to work out some of the alignment concerns, but that project is a design build and it will be completed. And then we only have a couple of segments left. I'm building up to a point, though. The third leg of the stool is our transit system, and it's woefully underfunded. We're funded at about a quarter of the rate of most local governments of our size around the country, most transit districts around our area. And looking at this graphic, I worked for PSTA in 1990, 91, and it's about the same number of routes and service program that we had in 1990, yet we have about 63% more riders on that system over that general same time frame, and our population has increased substantially to a little over, projected to be over 1 million by the year 2045. So our service is still focused on weekdays, daytime service. That doesn't help our shift workers. It doesn't provide the frequency and convenience for people. And not everybody's going to use transit, but a significant share of our population will if it's fast, frequent, and reliable and serves them at their needs. And we're a long way from that. Transit does increase equity and employment opportunity, and it's probably the single easiest thing, it's not easy by any stretch, that you can do to lift people out of poverty if you invest in public transportation. And there's research backing that up. So we look at our county, and this map just shows the percentage of households that are rent burdened. The previous one showed the percentage of households with a high percentage of no vehicles available in those households. And it's not just South St. Pete, it's not Midtown, it's not Ridgecrest, it's not High Point, it's throughout our county. We have these pockets of poverty and rent-burdened households. And a lot of that is the housing prices are going up so fast and incomes are not at the same rate. I'll just move on real quickly. We do have a regional transit project that we're working on. It's under development by TBARTA, our regional transit planning agency. It's the 41 miles connecting downtown St. Petersburg to Pasco County. While that won't directly serve Oldsmar, it becomes a footprint for a greater investment in regional transit. That is going through a PD&E over the next 2 years, and we're excited to see what kind of project emerges from that. But ultimately, we're going to need county support to operate and maintain that service. And that is that blue line that generally follows I-275 in that graphic. And you can see that we have the Central Avenue Bus Rapid Transit Project in South St. Petersburg to South Pasadena and St. Pete Beach. And then we are looking at other potential corridors, but we got to get something in place first at the regional level. We are nearing completion this year on the Gateway Area Master Plan. That is a collaborative effort involving 4 local governments, including the Florida Department of Transportation. We will have a presentation to our board on that project in July. But we are looking at how to make the Gateway our major employment hub for high-wage jobs, more of a place as opposed to a drive-through, pass-through area, and more of a hub for transit. And DOT funded an intermodal center feasibility study, and we've narrowed that down to 3 sites in the Gateway Center. So that becomes the linchpin for our future investments. So I've outlined a 5-point plan for how we invest in transit services in this county. Defining premium transit corridors, looking at the development along those corridors so that they support transit. That may mean in some corridors higher density development, which we're enabling, but local governments have to then follow through and make it fit their character. So everybody, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. What works in Safety Harbor and Oldsmar is different than what works in St. Pete and Clearwater and Largo. We then are looking to the county to help guide us on what that discretionary or dedicated funding source would be. We're talking about potentially the gas tax being raised by 5 cents, and that would be shared for maintenance and operations and transit service. We're also looking potentially at other sources, and the county has a workshop in July 18th, to further refine that and hammer that out. Tourist Development Council, there's a joint workshop between the BCC and the Tourist Development Council in June to also begin that conversation of the rapid growth in tourist revenues. Is there a way, and there is by state law, to use that for infrastructure, but you got to jump through some hurdles. So do we want to jump through those hurdles to do that? Mm-hmm. Our job at the MPO is to then prioritize those corridors for state and federal funding. And we may be in a position to prioritize those corridors for county funding too. So I just want to walk you through these corridors right now, and this is still draft, but the highest priority corridors are the US 19 corridor, and we've broken that into 34th Street South in St. Pete up to the Gateway, and then the corridor from Pasco County down to Gateway. The Roosevelt East Bay Drive corridor, Alt US 19 South, and then the I-275 corridor that I mentioned. But those are the priority. We also have another 5 or 6 corridors that we're looking at, including State Road 580. And I saw some data developed by my team and a consultant for the county last week that showed 580 actually looking a lot better than what we had initially thought. So you have a lot of redevelopment opportunity, you have a lot of growth, and it is a connection into Hillsborough County, and that regional connection is really vital for bringing workers to jobs. So our focus in all of this, and this is at the direction of the county administrator and the Board of County Commissioners, is if we're going to invest in better transit, more frequent, reliable service, then it has to be keyed on getting lower income, lower wage skill workers to job training opportunities so that they can better themselves and develop the skills they need for the workforce we need in Pinellas County. Because unlike Pasco and Manatee and Hillsborough, we're not growing as much. So we have to really rely on the people who are already here and empower them better than they've been. And that's the fundamental tenet of our strategy. So we're really looking at identifying these areas. So Roosevelt East Bay is a good example. That touches on a number of empowerment zones, not empowerment zones, what am I thinking of? It's the tax credit zones. I'm drawing a blank on the name. But we have a lot of low-income households in there. Opportunity zones, I'm sorry, that's what it is. And then as we do that, what we're doing is we're highlighting the redevelopment opportunities. We're looking at the cost of the service, and it's 15% of the people in this corridor have income below poverty. So those are some of the metrics, and each corridor has a little bit different approach. We're also looking at our highway needs in terms of where those capital projects are, and the biggest one is East Lake Road. In North County, that's a big need. We continue to reach out to your staff here in the city of Oldsmar to identify the needs in the city of Oldsmar and make sure they're prioritized as well. The fact of the matter is we're not building a lot of new and bigger highways in Pinellas County just because of the right-of-way costs and the limited land available. But we do have the Gateway Expressway that's under construction that'll come online by 2021 at the latest. And it may be sooner because there's an incentive option for that. We are continuing to program the interchanges on US 19 going north at Curlew Road, at Tampa Road, and Republic Drive. But we are currently in conversation with DOT about the cost effectiveness of building further interchanges north into Pasco County because Tarpon Springs has taken that out of their plans. And they're $80 to $120 million a pop, and we think we can get some cheaper improvements built that still improve safety and mobility in the corridor. And DOT supports us on the planning side, but on the right-of-way side, there's still some questions about that. So we're continuing to work through on that. We have some enhancement projects, and that's really looking at context sensitivity to create more of a complete roadway for all users from a safety standpoint, people who are crossing the road, who are on bike or on foot. And we've identified a number of projects, and one of the things we're looking at is the 580 corridor is a bridge to handle bicycle and pedestrian traffic so they're not right there next to 45 and 50 mile an hour traffic. And that would link your trail network with the Safety Harbor and Clearwater and County Trail Network further to the west and south. So in terms of new capacity or connections, one of the things we're looking at are the possibility of new toll roads in Pinellas County. Because toll roads do provide a steady supply of maintenance funding. Don't be alarmed by the lines on these maps, but the toll road
that's going through Oldsmar?
Yeah, that's right. The toll road
that doesn't bother us at all.
We have looked at Curlew Road all the way through to Hillsborough County, which could be the 580 corridor. Right now, just screening it from a traffic standpoint doesn't make sense. We've also looked at Ulmerton, and we've looked at Park and Gandy.
Do you actually think that something like that would get approved? That you take a road that's been there for a long time and you suddenly make it a toll road?
No. And
I misunderstood what you said?
We wouldn't suddenly make anything a toll road. It would have to go through a very rigorous process of...
That it would actually go through a very rigorous process? I'm just asking you, because if that's the plan, I'm not really sure who did the plan.
Well, it's good to get that feedback. So the direction that we got from the Board of County Commissioners was to look at east-west potential toll options. Because I'll tell you,
What about the gateway? All those, they got about 3 of them down there. don't they?
the gateway actually is going to be a toll road. That's a gateway expressway, will be a toll facility that connects Mcmullen Booth to I-275 and US 19. So that'll be the first one in Pinellas County in a long, long time. I don't think that the Curlew Road 580 corridor is going to end up being recommended as the next phase to study in more depth. But we at least wanted to screen it in the long-range plan because that's the place you look at things like that.
Well, then I think we should just go ahead and put a toll road up. Right here in Oldsmar, what do you think? Okay.
Well, I appreciate that feedback. That's good to hear. The first option was to look at Mcmullen Booth and building a toll facility in the center of Mcmullen Booth Road. And the county commission pretty much said not only no, but heck no. So that was a non-starter. And, you know, I'm not sure any of these will really pan out.
Well, don't you think, I mean, at the end of the day, that it's really going to come down to getting PSTA or the county, or it's going to come down to some kind of gas tax, some kind of automatic that spread across the board. I mean, we've needed it for years. You know, I mean, it amazes me that Hillsborough got, or was it actually limited to Tampa? No, it was the commission.
Hillsborough County.
Yeah, but
Sales
they got
tax?
they got it passed.
Yeah, the sales tax.
And, you know, to me, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was.
But it's hope.
That was a grassroots effort, and it was countywide, and they went out and gathered signatures to put that on the ballot. Now, the legislature has just made that harder for any other county to do, so I'm not sure they were all happy with that. But now it has to happen in an even year if we go to the voters for a referendum. If we go to the sales tax, that's a Board of County Commission decision.
Right.
But a sales tax generates a lot more money than a gas tax does.
Absolutely.
And the gas tax is a declining revenue source because of electric vehicles and more fuel-efficient vehicles. So you have to kind of weigh, and maybe the gas tax is a near-term strategy, and then maybe the sales tax or something else is a longer-term strategy. But I'm glad we're at least having the conversation. And we wouldn't be having this conversation if we didn't have a big backlog of needs and a funding challenge. We're not just looking to raise taxes. I don't think that's the way to go. But if we want better service and we want to maintain the service we have, you got to look at all options. So that's kind of where we are on that. The I-275 corridor, we have right now projects in the work program to improve significant capacity from the gateway area south into downtown St. Petersburg. That would include managed toll lanes that would continue over the Howard Franklin Bridge into Tampa. Managed toll lanes are variable priced, so based on demand, you pay more. When there's less demand, you pay less. We're looking at 2 lanes in each direction. It won't take additional right-of-way except for some ponds, so it's going to go down the middle of I-275. Transit will operate in those toll lanes, and the transit rider will be paying a $2 fare, not the toll, the variable price toll, so there's an equity value in that. That's not a done deal yet, but that's the proposal that is in the PD&E phase. We're also improving the lane continuity of I-275 because, as you know, if you're going to Bradenton, you're having to merge to just keep going south.
Yeah.
And that's a safety issue, so we're going to resolve that. And this will be complete by year 2024 and maybe 2023. So I just wanted to highlight that. The Gateway Expressway, there's the map of where the Gateway Expressway is under construction. You can see the construction out there today. That's going to be a significant travel time savings for people going north and south in our county and east and west. The Howard Franklin Bridge is being replaced by 2023, and it will have those 4 toll lanes, 2 in each direction. They are hardening the new bridge to support light rail in the future if we ever get around to, that's a big cost to ever do that. It will have a shared use path adjacent to it that will go across the bridge, and we have identified trail tie-ins on both sides of the county for that to work. We are also starting a PD&E study, a design study of the Gandy Bridge, and the thought there is that you bring back some version of the old Friendship Trail from years ago. So what have we heard from the people? First of all, we did a regional survey, It's Time Tampa Bay. Last summer, we evaluated 3 scenarios. One was focused on transit, one was focused on highways, one was focused on tolls. The transit focused scenario ranked highest regionally, and it ranked even higher in Pinellas. The highway focus scenario ranked lowest regionally, and in Pinellas it ranked even lower. And this is, we had over 9,000 responses throughout the region. Then we did a statistically valid survey of just Pinellas County residents on our own. And we asked what are some of the biggest barriers to transit and reliability, frequency, and efficiency. 54% said they would be willing to take transit if the service was better. 41% said they would pay more if it was frequent and reliable. And comfort at the stops was only 6%, so that wasn't really a big issue. 70% of our people believe that timing traffic lights is a top priority. We agree, we're working on that. 57% would be willing to exchange lower speeds for safer streets. I thought that was interesting. And 90% want to see more technology to improve traffic flow. And people want access to easy destinations. The ideal neighborhood, which you're working on here in Oldsmar, is to have destinations near your residence, shops, places like that that you can walk to, your downtown plans, things like that. And then I love these quotes that we heard from people. I would take the buses to places, but they're not quite good enough right now, or it's not bad enough right now. It's not a good value proposition. I would pay more than what I pay for transportation driving myself if I can sit back and relax and not worry about it. And there's just not enough space to build an efficient transportation system to move as many cars as are out there. This is just from regular citizens who we brought in to interview. A solution is not just one package, it's a bunch of solutions that get put together. So back to that partnerships. And so it's gonna take a lot of different steps. And I'll just conclude by saying that we're in the stage of developing what we call our cost feasible or financially affordable plan. So we're refining some of our costs. And the key here is making sure we're aligning your local plans with our countywide plans, because we can't do it without you. And we need to make sure we're leveraging our resources. So when we talk to the county commission about them stepping up to invest in transit, really for the first time ever in a significant way, we're looking at it as where should our affordable housing go in Pinellas County? It should go in our transit corridors. Where do our economic development efforts go? They go in these transit corridors. So I think it's great that 580 is on this list because it recognizes the importance of Oldsmar in our county. US 19 makes a lot of sense. So if we can tie 580 to 19, you've got a ready-made connection that serves cross-county needs. So I'll leave it at that and just invite you all to email me or call me with any questions. I'm happy to meet with you individually. I'm happy to sit down with the city manager at any time. And I encourage you to be engaged. We are going to be doing another scenario survey of what to fund in about 2 weeks, and we'll be blasting that out, and you'll get notices of that. And I encourage you to share that with your residents so that we get a good response from Oldsmar.
Well, thank you for being here. Does anyone have any questions?
I had maybe one or two. Thank you, Whit. Are you all, I assume you're all working with the major area employers in Pinellas County? Because I would assume, I mean, obviously Nielsen's one, but even like Tech Data, largest public company in the state of Florida, I can't imagine, I mean, I know, but thousands and thousands of cars that go there every single day with no public transportation options at all.
Right.
To any of those residents, and a lot of those employees live in North County because it's more affordable housing, as you mentioned. So what is the plan for those kinds of things, or what kind of talks are you all having with the big employers?
So we're having a lot of conversations with folks. We've been meeting regularly with the Gateway Business District, with the employers in the Raymond James, Caroline area, and Tech Data. A lot of these are one-on-one meetings, but sometimes they're small group meetings with a lot of the employers. We're working with the chambers of commerce. We're working with the economic development representatives to really understand their needs and how to structure not only transit service, but highway improvements as well. I will say one thing I have never heard from any of these employers is that we don't have a challenge recruiting and retaining employees to come here. And they all want better transit service. I mean, that's something we hear. Even employers, you wouldn't think that, but they recognize that that's for the younger workforce coming out of college. They want to live near where they work if they can, and if they can't do that, then they want to have an option where they don't have to drive everywhere, and they don't have to drive an hour. And unfortunately, in Pinellas County, a lot of our residents who want to live here have to drive to qualify for a mortgage. They have to drive to Pasco or Hernando or something like that and have a terrible commute. Yeah. So we're trying to solve that by looking at what are the housing choices that we can create? And honestly, we're not going to build a lot of 3 and 4 bedroom new houses in Pinellas County.
Right.
But maybe we can start building more, apartments or starter homes that are smaller footprint, located in right places. And the Gateway is an area where that can happen if we think smart about it. And maybe that's transitional housing until you get married and start a family and need a bigger home. And then you look for Oldsmar and you look for places like that.
Well, and I think it's great that you're coming out and you're making the rounds the way that you all do. In part, when you start to think about, with all the cities we have, and everyone has their different view on density, and they certainly have their own codes and so forth, managing that. A lot of times I think, and I would say that about our city, that not everyone always thinks about, well, we don't want the density to be too much, but we're not always thinking the bigger picture of how that fits into transit and all those other things. And this of course, this is an issue for our county that's been here for a long time. I remember on PSTA and I was working on the different plans and long-term plans, and we're talking about part of the reason, there was so many, besides the obvious, but the elected officials from cities on that board, frankly, in part, the intent was to influence them understanding how density actually is a huge part of the solution. And so, I know we're working on downtown. That's not a cheap plug to say go higher. It's to say don't ignore it because it's a real issue, right? I mean, that is important. And so.
Well, to your point, density doesn't mean an 8-story building everywhere.
Right.
General density is a term I use a lot, and accessory dwelling units, 3 and 4-story buildings, walkability is critical. You got to have some density to make places walkable. Right. And then you don't have transit if they're not walkable places. You can have park and ride, but park and ride's never as good as just being able to walk somewhere, right? So we're trying to find where is the right place in Pinellas County for that density to happen. Centers, districts, and corridors. It's not single-family neighborhoods, probably. So, we get a lot of pushback on density in this county. And I think we just have to be mindful of where to enable it, where to encourage it, and then what else needs to go along with it so that density works in those communities.
If you look at where we're talking about right now, which is over by our library and right out here, we have bus routes that go right down St. Pete Drive. And so, PSTA runs, I don't know the frequency, I haven't used the service, but it fits. So, anything else to add?
I just want to say one thing. The pictures that you take, I don't know where you go around Pinellas County, but they're fantastic. Thank you for doing that.
Actors.
You ever see his pictures? They're great. Thank you.
I love this county, so there's a lot of good places to take pictures.
Very educational and well put together.
Yeah, is there a way we can we get that PowerPoint?
You've got it.
Got it.
Yeah, so
That was going to be my question.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I didn't see it in there.
Yeah, it wasn't in our packet. I would love to have it as well.
Yep, so we've provided it to the clerk, so we'll make sure we get that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Whit.
All right, sir. Well, thank you.
Thanks for so much of your time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. The next item on the agenda is the city attorney.
Yes, I have 4 ordinances I'm going to read tonight. These are all second and final readings. So I'll start with ordinance 2019-03. Read it by title only. An ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city by amending the land use designation on those certain real properties described as parcel number 22-28-16-96660-016-0130, parcel number 22-28-16-96660-017-0190, parcel number 22-28-16-96660-018-060, parcel number 22-28-16-96660-018, 0070, and parcel number 22-28-16-96660-018-0150 is further described in Exhibits A, B, C, D, and E from the county land use designation of residential low medium to the city land use designation of residential urban and providing for an effective date. That was the second and final reading of ordinance 2019-03 by title only.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. The chair will entertain a motion to approve. The chair will entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Norris?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
Ordinance 2019-03, amending the land use for West Oldsmar Properties Number 15 from Pinellas County designation of residential low-medium to City of Oldsmar designation of residential urban is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Item number 8 on your agenda is ordinance 2019-04. Read that by title only. An ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, rezoning certain real properties described as parcel number 22-2816-9660-016-0130, parcel number 22-2816-9660, make that 9660, 017-019-0190, parcel number 22-2816-96660, 018-0060, parcel number 22-2816-96660, 018-0070, and parcel number 22-2816-96660, 018-0150, as further described in Exhibits A, B, C, D, and E from the county zoning designation of R4, 1, 2, and 3 family residential district to the city zoning designation of R3, residential 2 and 3 family district, and providing for the effective date. That was reading of ordinance 2019-04 by title only.
It's not 9660 or 166018? Okay, just checking. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Norris?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee? Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
Ordinance 2019-04, rezoning West Oldsmar Properties Number 15 from Pinellas County zoning designation of R4 to city zoning designation of R3 is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Item number 9 on your agenda is ordinance 2019-05. I'll read that by title only. An ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending the future land use plan element of the comprehensive plan of the city by amending the land use designation on those certain real properties generally described as vacant land consisting of parcel number 22-2816-96660-009-0170 and parcel number 22-2816-96660-0100080 as further described in Exhibits A and B from the county land use designation of residential low medium to the city land use designation of residential urban and providing for an effective date. That was reading of ordinance 2019-05 by title only.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Norris?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
Ordinance 2019-05, amending the land use for West Oldsmar Properties Number 16 from Pinellas County designation of residential low-medium to City of Oldsmar designation of residential urban is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Item number 10, the second final reading of ordinance 2019-06. I'll read that by title as well. An ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, rezoning certain real properties described as parcel number 22-2816-96660, 009-0170, and parcel number 22-2816-96660, 010-0080 as further described in Exhibits A and B from the county zoning designation of R3, residential 2 and 3 family district to the city zoning designation of R2, residential single family district, and providing for the effective date. That was the second final reading of ordinance 2019-06 by title only.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. Anyone from the public wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Go ahead.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Norris?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
Ordinance 2019-06, rezoning West Oldsmar Properties Number 16 from Pinellas County zoning designation of R3 to city zoning designation of R2 is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 11 is grant easement to Tampa Electric Company for electrical service to the vehicle storage building at the Municipal Services Complex. One of the conditions of TECO required to provide a new underground electrical service to the building from Commerce Boulevard is for the city to provide an easement over the electrical service. The attached easement provides for TECO to have ingress, egress, construction, operations, and maintenance rights over the proposed electrical service. The easement document has been reviewed by the city attorney. The purpose of the connection is so that we can provide electrical usage anticipated in the design that includes overhead lighting, which is not currently there, for both the interior and under the canopy, security lighting around the building, electrical outlets throughout the interior and the canopy area, and a separate 100-amp panel to allow for the addition of a compressor should we need one in the future. Staff recommends approval.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Discussion? Any questions? Kind of hard to sit out in the dark, though, isn't it?
Indeed it is.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 12 is to approve the purchase of a right-of-way easement from CSX Transportation for the amount of $30,000 and approve a maintenance agreement between the City of Oldsmar and CSX Transportation, Inc. for a new railroad crossing to be constructed at Burbank Road. On January 15th, 2019, Council approved the construction agreement with CSX Transportation, but in order to execute the construction agreement, CSX was requiring a dedicated easement and a maintenance agreement for the new crossing. The easement will be purchased by the city for $30,000 for ongoing use of the CSXT property. The maintenance agreement ensures the procedures and obligations of the city for ongoing maintenance of the Burbank crossing and should finally allow us to start the Burbank project, which would be a wonderful thing. Staff naturally recommends approval, and we'd also like to thank Congressman Bill Rackus's office for providing us with some help in getting CST to
Engage.
speed it up.
Speed it up. It's been going on for a long time. Chair will entertain a motion to approve. Got a motion. I got a second from Norris.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
You're done.
I had many issues with these contractual documents, but I will not belabor the point that in that it's a take it or leave it scenario.
Yeah, you know, I think had it not been for the congressman's engagement.
It would have been worse.
Yeah, I mean, this has just really been a very, very, it's disappointing how difficult CSX has been to deal with, really, you know? In any event, any other discussion?
I'm looking
Funny
for,
that Katie says that, because when I was in my meeting with Al, I said, you know, this, I like to stay in my lane, and this is Katie's lane. She's gonna have something to say. Anyway.
Any other discussion? None? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 13 is to accept the final artist ranking for the Oldsmar Downtown Public Art Project. With council approval, I would ask that Assistant City Manager Felicia Donnelly present it. Do I have council approval?
You have the council's, you have the chair's approval.
Good evening, City Council members. I am presenting tonight to accept the final artist ranking for the Oldsmar Downtown Public Art Project. As you all know, on February 19th, you approved the advertisement of the call to artists using a national call, this time called Cafe Call to Entry. And at that same meeting, you approved a selection committee, and that selection committee is composed of a member of the North Pinellas Cultural Alliance, who is Linda Norris. She replaced Ken Hannon, who stepped down, a design professional or an architect or urban planner from the area. That was John Buse. A professional fine artist from Oldsmar, Jorge Trujillo Mendoza. Someone from the Creative Pinellas organization and the public art world, Christopher Hubbard, a member of the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, Jason Sanders, he's right there, and the City of Oldsmar Arts Coordinator, Lisa Schmid. The process garnered 40 submissions, 40 really good submissions, which was a lot for a project of this scope. And so they went through them, they considered them, they ranked them, they came up with a final list in numerical order. And so they've selected the top 4 candidates with their ranking. The first one is Donald Gialinella. He's local from St. Petersburg. Chris Wrench. Chris Wrench is a pretty well-known public artist. Clayton Schwartz, who's also local from here, and Chris is from Oregon, yeah. And then they also, according to the call to artists, they'll invite those 3 artists back to actually form a proposal for us in Oldsmar. So they'll come with a drawing and a maquette of what they propose. And then the fourth ranked candidate is Robert Barnum. And so he'll serve as an alternate, and that's really in case one of the three candidates decline the offer. So the only action that is required by you all is the acceptance or the denial of the slate as presented. Any questions?
Have any questions?
I did have a couple questions.
Can we get a motion on the floor first?
Sure.
So moved.
On a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Gabby?
So on the actual call for the artists, what was the budget that was given to the artists?
$38,000, and that really was to allow for an overall budget of 40 to invite the artists to come. There's an honorarium. It's industry standard of about $250 for them to put together the proposal. And then also just an experience to hold a little contingency, because there's always something that wasn't planned for in that budget when they come to that. So $38,000 was the published price.
Okay, and then the second question is, where was the proposed locations in the call?
The proposed location was really in the downtown area, and so in the corridors of State Street Drive and St. Pete, to give the artists flexibility, because they can imagine what an art piece will look better at a space for their art. So it just gives them flexibility, and that way they can propose where it'll go.
Okay.
Katie?
I'm excited.
Very good.
I think 40 submissions is incredible.
Yeah, I think it is exciting. Dan?
No, I'm excited about the whole project. Art is good.
Art is good.
Art is an economic
Linda.
driver.
This is my lane. So just so y'all know, the 40 that we got were from all over the country, and these artists have installations all over the world. And the selection committee it's so nice to have the cross center of Jason, being chamber, business, artists, art organizations, and it was amazing how on point we were, how many of us liked the same artists. And I wanted just to point out that if you guys are interested or anything on any of the sizes and prices, the reason that we did put the fourth one in there, Robert Barnum, was because we had a four-way tie for third, and then we had to rank those, the four-way tie for third. Because one of the artists, the second artist, his thing, the one that we liked the most was $120,000. So it's way above what our budget is.
That Chris?
So Chris Wrench, yeah. If you want to look at it, it's the Tree of Life. We like that one. That was $120,000, which is 3 times our budget.
Yeah.
The other 3 artists, Barnum is in there because his stuff is within our budget, and it, was really nice. So we're not sure whether all 3 are gonna, well, 2 of the local, and another thing, when, I don't know about Jason, or the other jurists, but when I was ranking these, I didn't realize that Gianelli and Schwartz were local. I didn't choose them because they were local. I judged it on the art, the sizes, and the prices. Some of these things are 20 feet tall, on some of the, pieces. And it was just, it was an honor to be on the selection committee, and it was amazing how, out of 40 artists, how the 6 of us kind of flushed out these 4. So I think I have to recuse myself from
I
the
was going to
vote.
ask Tom if that was the
Yeah,
case.
I think I will. I'll
On the
recuse.
committee?
No, she doesn't have to accuse herself. She's not getting financial compensation for that, so.
You're voting.
You're voting for this.
Are we allowed to continue discussion, or it's just questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I like the ranking. Donald, I thought he had some really neat things, like the bear in Alaska made out of the scrap cars. I can't imagine that that's under $40,000.
Which one? The bison?
The bear in Alaska that Donald did.
Oh, the one that was
Fairbanks, that's made out of old cars that were
I'll
scrapped.
have to.
I'm just curious because it looks like a huge. It was in the picture. There's like a small person standing next to it, and it's enormous.
I'll have to look. I've got the prices if on Donald's here. Like the hubcap one is 10 grand. The bison is 25 grand. the fish is 35 grand, but that's 10 feet tall.
Yeah, it seemed like, based off the pictures, I thought it would be a lot more than what the budget was for.
You would think that on some of these, like when you look at Barnum and you look at, and Schwartz, but they're not. After the meeting, if you want to come over and look at the prices, because I wrote them all down here for you.
I did, I think I had a preference with Chris as well, based off of reading his letter. I liked the ideas he had on the interactive.
Yes.
For me, although I loved the bear in Alaska, I thought that was really neat.
Right.
There's nothing interactive about it.
Right.
And if we're gonna spend 40.
We don't have a lot of bears around here.
Well, I just mean like the idea of it is really cool. It could even be an Oldsmobile, whatever it is. But the idea of having art that's interactive for me would be like priority number one. Otherwise, it's a $40,000 statue. You know, I think Chris had some great ideas where he incorporated whether it's benches or swings, etc. So I would say, leaning more
From the
towards
letter,
him.
right, me too.
And he had some really great art as well. So yeah, I would just say I'd be fine with the ranking as long as there's a clear understanding that whatever they bring before us needs to have some sort of interactive element to it. The thing that I
But
think.
that's your preference.
Well, I'm
And I don't know that it's not the preference of everyone else.
Sure, but I
yeah.
mean, do we want to spend $40,000 for people to drive by a sculpture and nobody actually goes
I
up to
don't.
it and takes a picture with it, or?
You have to keep in mind that the Instagram moment, you have to keep in mind that people will stop and take
Sure.
photos. And Chris
If
says,
there's
I
a
agree
way
with
to be
you, Gabby,
interactive
I
with it,
agree
they
with you.
will.
I loved his letter. But when I look at the prices, none of them are in our price range, none of them.
They were beautiful.
Not one is in our price range. And some of the artists that did have interactive elements, they were either a little risque or a little too modern, or they didn't fit with the vibe of Oldsmar. They were kind of out there. I mean, and that wasn't just my opinion. When you looked at the nose, I mean, it was pretty solid. No. So even though we asked for that, we have to keep in mind that we might not have that interactive in the budget that we have, but we'll still have something beautiful that people will stop and people will appreciate.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, let me stop you there. At the end of the day, here's what's going to happen. They're going to come back, hopefully take your comments, right? And if we don't like what's in front of us, we don't have to vote on it. We don't have to approve it.
Mary, if I may, the last thing I would just add is, I was going to say is when I looked through more of Donald's stuff, because originally that was the first impression I got was, these are beautiful, there's no interaction with any visitor. Some of them he did though, some of them he had like poetry orbs, and he had like a mirror image, things that would engage or draw somebody in. He did have it. And so that's why I was going to say, I agree with the ranking that you put forth.
And the 4 or 5
Is there anybody
images-
else who, before you continue on, I want to make sure there's nobody else who wishes to speak, so we can kind of, if you have one more thing you want to add.
One more thing, just one more point. The 4 or 5 images in the package is only a half to a third of what we saw of each artist. Okay, we had a lot more, but she
And
didn't
the
want to load.
application was-
In the
yeah.
application and everything else. We had
interesting.
3 times as much for each artist. She just picked some to put in the packet.
All right, does anyone have any more comments? Seeing none, I'm sensing you're ready to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thanks, Alicia.
Thanks, Alicia.
I still like the big fish. I'd like to see like a big shark.
A big shark? For
Yeah. I'd take a picture in front of a shark.
This
You
is
don't
in
have
Roswell.
sharks out in the.
I saw. I was like, that's pretty neat. He did that in Roswell.
City manager.
Item 14 is award the professional services agreement 2018-012-RFQ to Kimley Horn Incorporated for the design of the St. Petersburg Drive Complete Streets project. A little background, the Complete Streets concept is to enhance mobility, access, and safety for all road users by constructing context-sensitive design improvements along the corridor. Oldsmar was awarded a $1 million construction grant for the St. Petersburg Drive Complete Streets project by Forward Pinellas. Excuse me, the grant will work in tandem with over $2 million of what are currently programmed improvements in the city's CIP to this segment of St. Petersburg Drive between the years of 2019 and 2025. On October 2nd, year 2018, staff requested to begin negotiations with Kimley Horn as the highest ranking firm from the aforementioned RFQ for the design of the project. The design will include all necessary work, which will be to design a complete street on St. Petersburg Drive from Dartmouth Avenue to Dartmouth Avenue to Bayview Boulevard. The work will include, but not be limited to, drainage improvements, plans for placing utilities underground, landscape design, and design of the streetscape facilities. The design will include survey, geotech exploration, and bid document preparation for construction. The total design fee associated with this contract will be a lump sum of up to $336,493.96, including all optional tasks. The project is planned to be constructed in phases from this single design contract. Funding is available in the CRA fund, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you, sir. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion, second, third. Discussion?
I had asked Al earlier, and he was going to check to see if the stormwater construction was going to be covered by the grant. I don't know if you were able to get that answer.
Big fella, can you come answer that for us?
Yeah, I just had a question. So obviously, it's a big expense in the design, and the majority of it's for the stormwater improvements. And I was just asking Al in our conversation earlier if we pay all this money for the design work, will the stormwater improvements actually be covered by the grant that we do, the construction of the stormwater improvements?
I'm Daniel Simpson, city engineer. The stormwater portion is not the grant portion. We will do the stormwater portion in the front end, and then the grant would be when the grant comes in. So in other words, we would be working to pipe the ditches as we had planned in years past, and then creating the area where the trail and the above ground amenities could sit on top.
So to answer, the grant is only allowed for, say, streetscaping, landscaping, beautification, not for actual like underground work?
I don't know.
It's for construction, but to his point, the stormwater portion of the project is not the portion that this is going to pay for.
Okay.
Right.
Which is what you asked me.
Right.
We phased it to get working now, but the grant is for more of the streetscape. I think that my understanding of the grant is it's not it's not like line items of we're going to do this. It's not as
Yeah, that was my understanding when we looked into it before, because the discussion we had at the capital improvement budget was, we have what we have in the way of funds, we'll jump out there and we have to pay for the design cost, and then we'll live within our means and incrementally go out. But to your point, as it relates to the stormwater, is already budgeted.
And apologies for this, but one of the reasons we have lacking in details, we don't have a grant agreement yet.
Sure. Okay.
Because it's down the road for them as well. So that's why that question might have been a little tougher to answer.
Anybody else have a question?
What, just one? When
ahead.
can we expect to see the design?
Well, Daniel, you want to handle that one? That's not going to be a quick process, I'm sure of that.
I would anticipate it'll be 9 months or so, maybe a year, but the project is going to be designed in phases, like in terms of, you'll see stuff early in the process. We have a public meeting, maybe not a council meeting, but a public meeting to show the general design of what we're planning to do and the general layout. I wanted to have the whole project designed together so that it all works together in what we're trying to do. We don't go, the way the project was originally laid out would be, you put the utilities under the ground, and you put the stormwater underground, and then throw the stuff on top. It's all going to look great. Problem is, there's transformers you got to put in strategic positions. I'd like to see the stormwater design integrated into the landscaping so that it's not ugly, Yeah. So we're trying to have some thinking through the whole project at the beginning instead of getting to the end and trying to put this mess together.
And you anticipate that will take 9 months to a year?
Yeah.
Well, yes.
For the design?
I mean, we don't
Planning
have
the whole thing at once. We're
Yeah,
not building
design, but it'll be in chunks essentially, so we can do phases, correct?
it will.
Yes.
Yes. One of the early tasks is to lay out the project, how we're going to design it based on our budgeting, and that's.
Okay, thank you.
We don't know what the chunks are, but
I got it.
design the whole thing.
Does anybody have any
so
other
that we can
questions?
do it in chunks.
All right, since you're ready to vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Daniel.
That's gonna be a nice project.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it is.
It's gonna be nice. And it might take us a while to get it all done, but, you know, baby steps.
Might get done before that little townhouse community gets done on the corner.
Yeah, it might be.
When we get ready to actually break ground on that project, it might be smart to do something similar to what we did in Harbor Palms to inform the public of what's about to occur, the scope of it, how
I
it
think
will
that's
affect them.
Yeah, that's part of the process of going through. And we can have a celebration at the top of the new rooftop bar. Anyhow, City Clerk,
I don't have anything.
you don't have anything. City Council, item 15, consider cancellation of July 2nd, 2019 City Council meeting. I'll take a motion, if we have a motion to approve. Second. Anyone want to? Discussion. So we historically have canceled this meeting right in here. I know that I have been informed by the city manager that it creates extra work. Having said that,
Creates extra work?
well, I think that it's probably because it loads up before and after,
Okay, I
right?
understand now, yes.
And
thank
so it makes things more time sensitive. However, having said that, I also would suggest that if you look at our attendance tonight, if you want to go back to a meeting when we've had a day or two or right around 4th of July, I would tell you that the only people who would be here are the people who absolutely have to be here because of their job. It's probably one of the least attended meetings from the public. I also think that it's a time of celebration where it makes a lot of time to allow our staff not to have to be here, and frankly, our council as well. And bah humbug, over here to the right, you can do a little extra work. So, anybody got anything they'd like to add?
I would like to just start. We started it 2 years ago, and then it really came about last year because the city staff, I think there were a lot of employees that had vacation with their families during the 4th of July, and it worked out to be a good time to cancel the meeting. One other point, I know Al is mad at me.
And Councilmember Saraki had vacation. I mean, let's just call it like it, I don't, by the way.
I know Al.
like it is, sir.
I know Al is mad at me, but in the long run, we have to all agree that if we do this, the next meeting, we're gonna be here a long time.
So, to that point, I'm opposed to canceling the meeting personally because I will be missing that second meeting in July. I don't want to miss an entire month. I know Al is in Alaska the same week that I am on a celebration as well. We may try to meet up, but, you know, I personally didn't make any plans, like in particular that week, because I knew that we had that meeting and I was missing the following. So
Fair enough, so.
I actually disagree as well, because we are elected to be here. And it's not historically that this has happened. The whole 6 years I was on council, the only one we cancel is the last one of the year.
Christmas one.
That's historical.
Well, 3
so-
years is historical too, it's just not 20 years. I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a first-time event, but your point's well
I
taken.
think that it, you know, I mean, that's what we're elected to do, is to be here.
Well, I'm going camping, I can come back if I have to, but I don't want to.
Katie, anything you'd like to add before I call for a vote?
We can't even see the tentative agenda yet, because this is June 18th, not
Can I make
July.
one more point?
Yeah.
Ron?
Go ahead.
You have a question? What do you mean, go ahead?
Because I'm
You don't have
thinking
anything to
about
add?
what I want to say.
All right,
I will
let's-
allow her
It's
a
a, yeah,
moment.
it's a thumbs up or thumbs down, it's not that big of a deal.
Okay, but the other point that I wanted to make is, it's loaded. These meetings are loaded already. If we miss another one, what is it gonna be, twice as big?
I'm
doubt
looking
it.
over at those faces.
I doubt it.
I'm looking at those faces.
They don't want it to
I see sad faces, I see happy faces, I can't make heads or tails of it.
All right.
We
Do
serve.
you have
the
anything
council.
else to add? If not, I sense that you're ready to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Yes.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
The nays have it. Motion fails. Next item on the agenda, approve the tentative agenda. At this time, the chair will entertain Is anybody who'd like to pull anything off of the tentative agenda? I would like to amend an item on the tentative agenda. Under council comments, I wish to pull consider requests by Horsepower for Kids, and I wish to amend the title to discuss horseback riding in Oldsmar.
Okay, change to discuss horseback riding in Oldsmar.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was a bit of a miscommunications on my part with our city manager. It wasn't my intent to specifically name, even though I copied everybody on their email. I think there's a discussion to have before there's any individual organizations, and so I wish to make that. Before we vote, was there any items that would like to be added to that?
I would like to add two, Mayor, if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
I'd like to add, obviously, one from the discussion tonight that potentially we review the Leisure Services Advisory Board bylaws and, you know, how they set their meetings and dates to see if there's any changes and things that need to be made there.
Review Leisure Services bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the second one, if I may, came from the flea market Circus. I think we received a lot of negative emails about the circus, and I had to agree. I was a bit disappointed when they came before us and mentioned there was going to be a circus, that was the new event. So I would like to put on the following agenda that we ask Tom to create an ordinance that prevents the use of animals for circus, entertainment,
Let me
or...
stop you there. Why don't we do this? Because I think it's more appropriate to put the topic on here.
Sure.
So then we can debate the topic, and that might be the outcome of it.
Sure.
So let's put circus
Discuss
ordinance.
circus ordinance.
Fair enough.
Fine by me.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve as amended and added to.
Could I ask you a question?
Sure.
On one of them, like, I don't want to add or remove it, I just have a question on it. Or do I wait for the question when, I just want to know if we're going to have details prior to this approving of paddling
Oh,
or a
yeah, I would assume that we'll
non-motorized
have the
license
agreement.
agreement, because I've got a few issues with this.
Yeah, we shouldn't get into the detail of it now. I would assume that if we're approving an agreement, we're going to have the agreement before us.
Before, so we can, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good question.
Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, yeah. At this time, I'm going to start council comments with Councilmember Gannon.
Well, as I so ineloquently put it earlier, I wanted to thank both the Veterans Advisory Board and staff and all of the volunteers for the incredible Memorial Day ceremony. Thank you so much to all of you. I wanted to wish a happy birthday on down the line there, Kalinda, coming up. I know I'm a little
Jason.
early. And also to Jason Schwabe, our interim fire chief.
Thank you.
And congratulations to Deputy Cindy and Deputy Eddie, our Oldsmar Citizens of the Year. And I wanted to thank the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce for a wonderful awards banquet and dinner last week. Sorry to have missed it. It was a little warm in the room though, so.
Guys, we're heating it up.
Yes.
That's what it was. It was like ice in there till you got there.
It felt great to me. I'm freezing in here, so you guys.
My comments shortened and save my comments related to the Leisure Services Advisory Board to the future discussion as has been added to the tentative agenda.
Excellent. Councilmember Saraki.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that I felt Memorial Day, everyone did a great job. Katie, you did great. Linda, you did a great job too. And Mayor, your speech was, you really touched me.
Phenomenal.
You did a really good job.
Thank you.
Just your posture and your form, the way you did your speech was amazing. And I want to just thank you for that. It was a really good job.
Thank you, sir.
But other than that, I thought we did a great job, all of us. And then the last thing, I don't want to repeat what Katie said. Congratulations to Cindy and Eddie, but you know that I wasn't there unfortunately. But I do want to say one thing. I've been getting some really crazy emails the last couple weeks from residents. And I just want to thank Al and Chip and Nan and Marie, Felicia and Dan. I mean, you guys get back to Al immediately with the answers to these situations. And you have no idea how much I appreciate that. It means a lot to me, and I just wanted to thank the staff for that. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Excellent, thank you. Councilmember Linda Kalinda. No, I purposely was calling your first name that time so I could say it right. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Kalinda, but
Kalinda.
I have been advised that I have to go by Linda. I can use Kalinda as a nickname, but I can't change any city shirts or any cards or anything like that until I legally do it, but I will
Gotcha.
answer to either. I prefer Kalinda, but officially I have to still say Linda, but thank you. And yes, I will repeat it. Congratulations, Cindy and Eddie, for Citizens of the Year, but I have to tell you something, Mayor, that the first person account of Frankie's life, when you were your speech and it was in first person, Craig came up to me afterwards and told me that he felt that it was the best accounting of Frankie's experience, and he was in tears.
Wow.
He was almost in tears. So that's something, because it was beautiful. So the Veterans Advisory Board did a great job. Oh, and I have to say, I'm going to be in 3 different states for my birthday, and my little brother, so my blood family, my little brother was born on my birthday, so I always celebrate it with him, but my Oldsmar family, I have Jason Schwabe and I have Chris Vaca. There's 3 of us that are born on the same day in my little Oldsmar family, so congratulations, Jason. And the only other thing I wanted to say was there's a couple of Oldsmar businesses that people might not know it. I know Gabby knows it, and you know it, that new restaurant, Pokey Island. They're giving a 10% discount to all of the employees, all the city employees. So you just have to go in and, Ty. I know. It's like.
Yeah, they're super nice
Oh my
over
gosh,
there.
they're so nice, and yeah, so 10%, you get 10% off as city employees, so that's kind of cool. And then I have to do a shout out to Sherwin-Williams, because Dana Barrow approached me to help her with a senior citizen's home that needs to be painted. She can't afford to have it painted, so I helped her out with a little bit, but I went in to see if I could get a discount on some paint, and they had already used up their charity budget, because there's a charity budget every year, and unbeknownst to us, until we were getting ready to leave, they took 50% off the bill, even though they went over their charity budget, because it was for a resident, Dana Barrow, to paint a senior citizen's home
awesome.
in her neighborhood. So I have to shout out to Sherwin-Williams. Josh, thank you. And that's it.
Outstanding. Well, happy birthday,
Thank you.
Jason. Happy birthday, birthday boy. I'm not singing. I do want to congratulate Deputy Martinez and Deputy Cacalo on being recognized. I think that's a first that the chamber has done that. So, good stuff. Sorry I couldn't be there. I tried. I actually did try. I do have a few items that I want to touch on. I'd like to get an update from our city manager on the current or the latest and greatest on negotiations that we've approved with the hotel provider as well as the tract developer.
Yes, sir. On the developer front, we have met with the Simone Group once. We also have another meeting scheduled for Friday. We've been continuously meeting with the Commonwealth Group. We have a tentative proposal that staff is evaluating currently in our hands. Looks very exciting. And we are meeting with Francisco's group on Thursday for what's likely to be multiple topics, with the fact that the MOU expires August 6th in the back of my mind. And that's where we are for the recent developments from potential hotel developers. And did you ask me about the other yet?
Track.
Is there, I got on my notes that I need to.
Could you give me an update on the BMX track?
Oh, what a surprise. Yes, I can, sir. Sorry, I'm getting old. Okay, as we know, council approved the work order for King Engineering to provide services to evaluate the retaining wall on May 7th. We met with a consultant on May 8th to discuss some of those issues. May 21st, there was a kickoff meeting with the consultant to discuss timelines and processes. May 29th, we met on site with the consultant for the field investigation and the selection of testing locations. May 31st, consultant submitted a testing plan, additional construction documentation reviewed by the consultant, and the plan is that during the week of June 10th, the testing will be actually performed.
Okay. Performed on the 10th?
The week of the 10th, meaning they'll be out there all week.
When do you think we'll have the report? I mean, what does your gut tell you?
I believe we were told by King Engineering that it may not likely take all 105 days, but that was to be conservative. So I would say probably somewhere between 60 and 90 days.
All right. All right, thank you, sir. Hey, coming back to downtown, I just wanted to thank everyone for the effort they put into the pattern workshop. I also wanted to thank staff's efforts on that. I thought it was a really good presentation. I cannot recall the last time that the council has actually had a presentation on the pattern book and some of the detail of it. So I think it was.
I learned a lot.
I think it was really good because it certainly will help in the process. And I know we have some items that are coming back to us, and we'll get to those when they come. Hopefully we'll have everything before we have our next workshop, so we can kind of start to finalize these different steps that we're doing. I think the biggest challenge we'll have at that one is whether or not we agree on the collective concept plan. I don't know about you, but I cannot wait to see it. And I'm purposely not, I'm staying away from them. I'm just not doing it. And we'll all see it, we'll all see it together. And we'll all, hopefully compromise on what we don't like and make sure the gotta-haves are in there, and we'll get it done. I do have a task that I mentioned at the pattern workshop that I'd ask you to all, I want to make it a little bit more formal. I would ask, this is just kind of prep work. And if you don't have anyone, you don't have anyone. But I'd like us all to try to put a little effort into thinking about potential breweries and microbreweries and pub breweries that we've maybe know someone at or we've been to, where we look at their operation and say, that's a good footprint for what we've got to work with. And I'd like to see if we can try to get a list of that going and submitted to the city clerk maybe by June 21st. So that way we have an opportunity to just spend a few minutes talking about it at our workshop. I'm trying to load up that workshop so I don't break out the calendar and then it looks like, oh, let me guess, another workshop. But anyhow, if we could try to do that, and because I have a feeling that's next on our list.
Mayor, the two we had that were thinking about opening, do we know what happened with them?
I do not. I haven't heard. And, and honestly, I haven't put any effort into that yet just because of where we're at in this process. But I anticipate that we will. Just a reminder, everybody, Form 1, Statement of Financial Interest is due by the end of this month. If you don't know how to do that, get with the city clerk. She's happy to help you. It really takes only a minute.
That's different than the TRG, the
Yes.
TG. Okay.
Yes. Experience Oldsmar, the June-August edition, very nice. Always like looking at that book. I was curious, how many of those do we distribute? I mean, how many do we make? And
Is it every other month?
Nice.
how many do we make of a run? 3,000? And where do we normally, where do we put them?
We have an entire list.
Oh, do we?
Distribution.
Cool. I love that.
And we do it 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was close.
Yeah. Good enough.
Forgot my mark.
Good enough. The last thing I have is I just wanted to thank the Veterans Advisory Board. I know we've all mentioned it. I think it was everyone comes together on that event and really puts a lot into it. I appreciate the kind words, but it was a culmination of everybody who was there and made that event, and it was an honor for me to speak about it's easy to be very passionate and emotional when we're talking about one of our own. And so, I do want to thank the Gross family because I called and asked for permission and spent a lot of time with them texting, and Tony's like, you're not bothering me, it's okay. So in any event, but it was a very nice event. I heard a lot of great things about it. And I don't know, man, I think one of the things we need to think about just throw this out there, fans. I think we need to seriously entertain
It was the hottest one ever.
renting,
was the
because I know how expensive those huge commercial fans, but how bad would they look? How loud would they sound? I don't know, but I think it's worth looking into. You know, you just can't help the weather is what the weather is that time of year. So outside of that, motion to adjourn.
Wait,
Gabby didn't go.
Gabby didn't,
Oh, I have.
Oh, wow, I am so sorry.
spoke enough
Vice
tonight.
Mayor, I apologize.
Happy birthday.
thank you, thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, I've said my piece many times tonight. I'm good. I have nothing.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
I'm gonna let you go twice next time.
No, I'm good.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
We're adjourned.